So we had a bit of a technical issue, so there was a break, but we're going to pick up where we left off in the same clip here. We were talking about how we were looking for the metro so that we could head home, and we found our way to the metro, and then when we got to the metro, I saw something that made no sense to me whatsoever. This is the closest metro line to where the rally was. I mean, the Capitol, like just a few blocks away from the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And being from New York, every time there's a parade, a rally, a protest, a large event, you have an increase of police presence in the subway system, not only in the waiting platforms and in the entrance, but also on the trains itself. I mean, you have a lot of police presence to prevent people or to discourage people from any kind of misbehavior.
So then, me not being from New York, and thinking about where, if Antifa or somebody was going to make us victims, where would they be? And now being in New York a couple of days and experiencing the subway, I'm thinking this is the most dangerous kind of part of our day. We were in the crowd, no problem, but when people start breaking away from the crowd, that's when the awareness has to go even higher. And
trouble usually starts at the end.
No police.
And this is definitely this was just the natural end of the event, other than whatever might go on, later, troublemakers. Yeah. But definitely we were all vulnerable people heading home from this rally. And when we got into the down to the platform waiting for the train, it was a great jovial vibe. We were all like having a great time. We were having hey, where are you from? Where are you from? And oh, what do you guys do? And
I'm kind of reminded of this event in DC that wasn't that long ago, but a lot of important people were coming out of the event, and there was like chaos. They were getting attacked out there. Remember what it's like? Anyway, it's just I was thinking of all that could have happened, and they noticed.
you had a heightened sense of alert because you felt this was the place for trouble to start.
I mean, it's happened there before after Trump events.
And for me, I noted that there was no police presence, not because I felt like this was a dangerous setting, but because it was just that's what normally happens is you increase police presence when there's an event like this. And this was the biggest event I've ever seen like this. And so we got on the train and we went home. We got in the car. We were driving home, and while we're driving home, we're listening to the radio, and here's where we're starting to hear reports of what's going on. Well, not.
I was trying to catch some streams of what was going on. Yeah, but even in the train though, before we got to the car, we were hearing a little bit of stuff about what was going on at the Capitol.
Well, we heard that Mike Pence punted. That's what we heard.
We heard that,
and then we heard that there was some issues in the with
breaking in. Something about that, and then on the drive home we did hear about the young lady that was shot.
Yeah, we heard about that. And that was very, very disturbing.
And so then we're reflecting on what we just experienced and heartbroken to find out what it supposedly turned into, and thinking about what we'd experienced all day.
Yeah, we were hoping, and we were a good 3, almost 4 hours from home, and we were eager to get home and see the actual footage on the news, because with what we saw, the lack of police presence and this number of people, we thought it was going to be some pretty terrible things. I mean, after what we'd seen all summer long with the BLM protests, we were expecting to see fires and damaged vehicles. I mean, those vehicles we saw, we were expecting to see terrible, terrible things on the news. And what we saw on the news when we got home didn't match what we experienced there.
Yeah, what they were reporting, it was so unlikely based on our experience at that place. I mean, it was as unlikely as Joe Biden winning. It was that unlikely.
It was hard to believe
in that
the crowd that we left
that doesn't happen
had suddenly stormed the
and escalated to bloodshed.
The Capitol,
and death.
right? And then of course the bloodshed and death. And but then we started watching videos. We wanted to see feeds, and we checked out some feeds from MSNBC, and we were hearing the narration of what we were seeing, and no one in their right mind could see what was being described, in the scene.
Yeah, he said it was a disturbing scene of them
Chaos and violence.
sieging into the Capitol, and they're walking in a orderly fashion
Right.
in between these stanchions with
Stanchions.
police standing next to them.
Yeah, and we're seeing people casually stroll in, and staying within the lines of the stanchions. Like, they're not pushing the stanchions over. They're not climbing over the stanchions. Stanchions, red ropes. How is a red rope maintaining a violent mob of insurrectionists? It was just,
Yeah.
but you hear the narration, and he's like, "This is the most devastating thing we've ever witnessed. These people are going to destroy the police." It was just insane. Like, literally watching him describe something in front of you that didn't make any sense at all. It looked like people there to tour the Capitol.
Mm-hmm. But it hurt. It was like they were attacking your best friend when you hear what they're saying about them, and you were just there with them.
Yeah, and you know in your heart that it's a setup, and that it's a scam.
Because this all came together while we were driving here.
Yeah.
Not really that it was truly a setup, but that it couldn't have happened, or it was likely to happen based on what we had been observing, and we needed to know why it became so likely and probable. So we started digging into whatever we could find on the news, and nobody would
Nothing
say
on
it.
the news. The news, even the conservative news network. Okay.
We were desperate to find out what the girl did in order to draw fire.
Right, because we'd seen all summer violent interactions between police and demonstrators, and we were watching all of these clips and feeds that were being presented, and we weren't seeing the level of violence at all that we'd seen all summer long. I mean, we as a country, we've seen rallies and protests get crazy.
So
and
we were pissed at what we were seeing.
angry at the
We didn't sleep.
misinformation.
We talked for hours and hours reviewing what we saw, and
Well, then we saw footage of
and then we're seeing
an unarmed woman being murdered.
for sticking her head through a window.
Murdered.
Now-
And no one attempted to arrest her.
Okay, so
That's wait, hold on. That's so important. There were police behind her, in front of her, on the side of her, all around her. There were police all the way through this thing. No one attempted to arrest her. No one said, "Put your hands behind your back. We're going to cuff you because you've broken the law too far." No one said that.
But okay, we're gonna get, I think, back to that because we're skipping something important, but this was all what was our motivation to see the news wherever we could find it.
We wanted to know why
Because-
the scene we left ended up in someone being killed.
And from my what I was thinking about from being in the Army and understanding carrying live rounds, the government actually defines your rules of use of lethal force. So I was demanding, like, if sticking your head through a window is defined as use of lethal force, then it's got to be documented. Show me that document. So that was, but we were not seeing anything on the news, even talking about her as a victim of a potential use of force.
Well, not only
They
that,
were talking about it like the use of force was a symbol of the police recovering the control of the Capitol.
we're accustomed at this point, because of the outrage over the police killings of people they're trying to arrest. We're accustomed to getting a statement from the police as to why this happened. And we expected them to say we can't release the name because we haven't notified the next of kin. We expected we expected some kind of statement from the police force that shot this woman and killed her. And because by the time we were hearing this, it was not 3:30 or 4 o'clock. It was 9:30, at night, and we're still waiting for some explanation as to why this happened, why it became violent, and it never came. And still to this day, this is a couple days later, the only thing we're seeing is the chief of police wants to resign. He admitted that they were overwhelmed. Well, we don't believe that. We don't believe it from what we saw in footage of police officers guiding people in, and so I should say this, because of our experience of not seeing any police presence. I wanted to see if anyone else noticed. I mean, am I the only person that saw that there was no police in the entire city prior to the Capitol Police? Where was the Metro Police? Where was the Park Police? So I wanted to see if it was true. So I started looking for articles and stories, and I found some. I found something to confirm what I had seen. Not from the conservative media, not from the major networks, not from any news source that is considered reliable. I found them in articles written by extremists, liberal extremists, far left extremists, the kind of people who think the entire nation is a racist, anti-black place. And they were showing side-by-side photos of a Black Lives Matter protest rally and this, what they were calling a white supremacist attempt to overthrow the government. And they were showing lots of police, no police. Not lots of police, no police. And they were absolutely correct. Yeah. Lots of police versus no police.
And we found out today that they were focus group testing the message,
the narrative
that a certain person wanted to throw at us today.
Right. Well, let's get to that in a minute, because there's something else that needs to be said, and that's I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
The police versus no police. Okay. It is true that there was no police. They noticed it. They wanted to paint it as a racist thing, okay? So they say that everyone at this rally was a white supremacist, okay? That's 300,000 white supremacists. I don't know what all of the people who were of other colors there that day that no one will see, okay?
None of them were angry enough to even key a car or start a fire.
Right, and you go back through the footage. Try and find one trash can that was set on fire in this entire sea of angry mob trying to overthrow the government for Trump. Okay, it's just not true. There's nothing true about it. It cannot be painted as truth, and yet they are brazenly doing it. And these far left activists apparently they didn't get the memo not to talk about the fact that there was no police. Okay, they didn't get the memo, so they paint it as a racist act by the government. So they're saying that the mayor of D.C., who I do not believe is a white supremacist, told the entire police force not to show up that day? I mean, explain it. It can't be explained. And
so we're kind of morphing into analysis here, and it's good. I want to kind of stay there, but I also want to review things that have already been going on. By the time we're experiencing this, other things that are happening are important to note. The Congress had hid in the building somewhere, and for hours everything was put on hold. Our objections were put on hold.
What I guess now we're finding out that the entire incident, from the breach of the door to the end of it when they were cleared out, was 90 minutes?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to recognize that nowhere did we see a true breach that would allow hundreds of people into the Capitol. The only way they could have gotten in was through a doorway. This isn't a trailer park, or this isn't like a mall with big glass windows. This is an old building made of stone.
But there's way too much video evidence for anybody to claim that the Capitol was actually taken by force.
Right. First of all, let's just say this. What if it was true? What if Trump said, I need about 200 people unarmed to storm the Capitol and overthrow the government in my name? I mean, that doesn't even reach the scale of stupid. Okay, to say that is the government that Trump intended to incite, and this is the Capitol.
And his direct calls for peace and his direct suggestions to go home were censored.
Let's talk about that in the next segment, because
Right.
we need to talk about our president-elect Joe Biden's response, because that tells everything.
Wow, we got a lot to cover.